Japan, a country with a long cultural history. There are many fascinating aspects about the history of Japan. If you stop and think about it, Japan can be credited with many cultural impacts to countries other than itself. Take for example America, commonly referred to as the melting pot, home to people who came from all over the globe in search of opportunity, relief, and new beginnings. But not all new beginnings come with a clean slate. With it came the rituals, customs, and history of the country from which it originated from. In the case of Japan, we have a beautiful, functional, and even tasty cultural list. Some notable items from Japan include technology, art, and entertainment. Why, most people have seen the fuel-efficient cars from makers such as Toyota, who makes the popular Prius. Or maybe you yourself, or someone you know, owns a PlayStation gaming machine made by the Japanese technological giant Sony Corp. Maybe you're a traditionalist, and more interested in the arts. Then you quite possibly have heard of a Japanese poem that is metered in syllables of 5, 7, then 5, also known as a haiku. Even self-defense techniques that are popular in the States can be credited to Japan. Take for example karate, a Japanese form of striking, practiced for art, sport, combat, and self-defense. Here we see Team Kata of Japan competing using the name technique kata, which is Japanese for form. It's possible you have already tried some form of Japanese cuisine. The list includes tasty noodle dishes such as ramen, or the affordably priced top ramen, made famous by Momofuku Ando of the Nissin Food Company. Or how about the dish best served cold? I'm of course referring to sushi. Made in different forms, this food is meant to be as aesthetically pleasing to the eye as it is to the palate. But there is another famous style of food that originated from Japan that is quite popular in the United States, and that form of food is called bento. Bento, or o-bento, means lunchbox in Japanese. The use of bento can go back as far as the 5th century in Japan, when fishermen and hunters would take their meals consisting of rice, millets, and potatoes with them in sacks. Popularity with bento came concurrently with the creation of hoshii, which occurred during the Kamakura period that ran from 1185 to 1333 CE. Hoshii, which translates to dried meal, consisted of cooked and dried rice. It could be eaten as is, or further cooked before consumed. Interestingly enough, the Kamakura period was also known for the emergence of the samurai warrior, another fascinating topic that is oh so popular in America to study, and also a major benefactor of the creation of bento. Fast forward to the 16th century. In this period, it is believed that the actual word bento was originated. From the years 1584 to 1632, military commander Obo Nobunaga, who was the initiator of the unification of Japan, was said to have handed out meals to a large number of people that inhabited his castle. This occurred during the same time as the Edo period, which ran from 1603 to 1868. People took bento as a meal to theater venues and other outdoor trips. It's in this time where a named variation of bento is discovered, known as Maka no Ichi bento, named after the break in between a play. Food such as small rice balls sprinkled with sesame seeds and other assorted side dishes comprised the box. Bento was also used for celebration during this time, leading to the artistic food preparation that you see in authentic Japanese bento cuisine. Immediately following the Edo period in 1868, bento's practicality and entertainment were merged more consistently. The birth of Japanese railway systems came. This type of bento was referred to as ikiben bento, or station bento. Today, bento has cultural and practical significance in Japan. Bento boxes can be made from anything from plastic to aluminum or wood. Trending fashion often dictates the style that is used at any time. Aesthetics play an important part of preparation when it comes to bento as well. According to Anne Allison, author of the article Japanese Mothers and O-Bentos, the Lunchbox as Ideological State Apparatus, mothers in Japan would create food art for their children that were in nursery school. or otherwise called preschool. Because nursery school is considered a private school, requirements were different from school to school, but in most, mothers were required to painstakingly prepare bento lunches for their children that were both nutritious and aesthetically pleasing. During meal periods, the child was to eat the entirety of the meal in front of the other children who were eating as well. Both mother and child are judged on the bento at this time. The entry into nursery school marks a transition both away from home and into the real world, and the obento is intended to ease a child's discomfort and allow the mother to manufacture something of herself and the home to accompany the child. So you might be asking yourself, how come bento looks so different in the United States than it does in Japan? To answer that, we deferred to an expert and creator of Western-style bento, Dan Mosley. Big Dan Mosley is single-handedly responsible for bringing the idea of bento to the Northwest. In 1987, he brought his version of bento to Portland, and it became quite a success. We got a chance to sit down with Dan and find out what he knew.
Phenomenal, popping up faster than coffee houses and microbreweries.
Yum, yum.
Bento stands. You see, bento is fast becoming a Northwest staple, and the man making it happen is Bento Dan Mosley of Portland.
Hey, that's Shay, and welcome to Big Dan's Bento Kitchen. We're glad to have you today.
The West Coast Bento, Portland's first and the original.
Wonderful, wonderful.
To be good if all these people waiting in line for one guy to fix this.
West Coast Bento, America's favorite. Doesn't hurt either.
The exposure of Japanese food. I mean, nowadays we have Japanese restaurants all over.
Correct.
And thanks to you, we have bento all over. I should be thanking you. Don't
No.
But in the 70s there wasn't as many.
No, there wasn't. The really strange thing, there was one store called Onzen. It's still here.
Yeah,
on Union Avenue. And most of their customers were Japanese. And so there wasn't any sushi shops. There might have been a few small ones around, but it wasn't a trend. Mm-hmm. It was the Japanese community that was new. Everything was new in 71, 72 about this kind of food thing.
Yeah.
And it was all new to me too. The only thing I knew about Asian food was going to the old Chinese restaurants with the pork fried rice, egg foo young,
the lazy
chop
Susan.
suey. Yeah, and we love that. I mean, and it's still great to go there and eat that. But the Japanese cuisine and the Southeast Asian cuisine, Thai food, Indian food, non-existent here. Mm-hmm. So it was all that. A lot of the training I was doing, it wasn't intentional to bring bento to the United States or be in the food business. Mm-hmm. I always vowed, working with my father in the meat business, not to be in the food business. Because I saw what he had to do, and what I thought in my mind, I'm going to come back, I know how to speak Japanese, get a suit and tie on, and I'm going to be a businessman, you know. But that wasn't happening, you know. My brother opened a store, a meat market in '79 in downtown Portland, and it was a butcher shop like my dad had. We were raised in that business. Make a long story short, the more we got into the meat thing, the traditional meat market business thing, okay.
Yeah.
I kept bringing up this idea about doing skewered meat called yakitori and yakiniku on a stick. And my brother thought, oh boy, here we go. Because they always thought I was a little whacked anyway, going overseas like I did.
Yeah.
So they said, you want to do skewered meat on top of rice? What is that? And then I made him some rice, you know, because medium grain rice, you know, the stickier rice like everybody likes now.
Right.
People weren't eating it here. They didn't know what it was. I knew what it was because I lived in Japan.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And I thought, you know, if I did a restaurant, I know the American people, mainstream, would get into this kind of rice. They will get into skewered meat, teriyaki type stuff, and hot sweet chili. You know, when I got down into Southeast Asia and started getting into the Thai food,
Yeah.
and messing with, and also had friends from Myanmar with spicy, they did spicy stuff too, and curries. I said, you know, okay, I got some ideas, but as sure as I brought them up, like to my brother and my dad, they hadn't seen any of this stuff, so they said, no, you're nuts. And I said, okay, here's what we're gonna do. I said, I'll buy a barbecue, I'll put it in front of your store. I told my brother, you don't have to pay for anything. And so he let me do that. And this was like in 1983, after we'd been in business for a couple of years. And so we did that. Him and I made a bunch of yakitori, skewered meat.
Yeah.
Not a bunch, only like 30 sticks of each, beef and chicken. And I went out there and within an hour sold the whole thing. And like, boom, you know, it was like hit in the face.
Yeah.
And so, you know, every time I did it out there, we were selling over 100 sticks, you know, just a stick.
Yeah.
So then I said, you know, we got to put this to rice. And I didn't talk about bento, calling it a bento or a box lunch. I just said, we need to put it, my dad said, people up here are not going to eat rice. So I know they eat rice in Japan, but they're not going to eat rice. Some teriyaki sauce, a skewer of beef or chicken, and for $3, sold it. Oh man, the people were on that like flies. You know, I'm serious. So that's how the origins of this bento, this Portland-style bento got going.
Yeah.
1987 or the 1980s was right.
Yeah.
For this kind of thing, and it was a good location in Northwest Portland, and it just happened to flow that way. Yeah.
How long did you have? So then, actually, why don't you tell us what happened from doing it in front of your brother's market to...
Until I opened the bento thing. Yeah. So we did the chicken and rice in the little box thing and called it chicken and rice. Everybody, chicken rice! And we didn't, the sweet chili sauce thing hadn't come here because I couldn't source it out here yet. And so I was using some other Southeast Asian products and mixing my own. And that went on for about 3 years in front of my brother's store. And it's still going on. I mean, the Phil's barbecue. And so in 86, it got to be 1986, I just felt like I wanted to expand the idea more, and my brother said, no, it's expanded as far as it's going to go like this, menu-wise and all that. And across the street, a space opened up. So at that point, I just decided, I want to give this a name, an identity, and I think I can, possibly franchise it or make a chain. Mm-hmm. So I threw around names, couldn't figure out, do I want to use Bento, do I want to just call it Big Dan's, or what? So came down to Big Dan's original West Coast Bento, because we're on the West Coast. Didn't get greedy and call it Big Dan's Bento USA, but we call it Big Dan's original West Coast Bento, because I thought that we could make a bento chain. I wanted to make sure that they understood that this was not, I'm not saying this is the only kind of bento there is in the world, because when the Japanese see this...
Big Dan may have been humble by not including USA in his business name, but his impact on Western-style bento has left his mark to this day. Now, all over the country, takes on teriyaki chicken and rice bento is being served by thousands of food chains, and even to this day, West Coast bento can be found with the same menu, though with a higher price than it was in the 80s, now under ownership by another entrepreneur that happens to have the same first name. Bento has regained its popularity in Japan since the 80s as well. The way food is being prepared is even evolving. Even in the United States, food preparers have taken strides to be more authentic to the various styles of Japanese bento. It's thanks to people like Dan Mosley to follow his passion that paved the way for such a delicious cultural treat to be so readily available to us today. But don't forget, bento simply means lunchbox in Japanese. So, if you feel like being creative, pull out that Rubbermaid container and get innovative with your food. A little effort when preparing your meal can make it a bento meal anytime you like.